question. I've heard before that when we're born, we decide what lesson, before we're born, we decide what lesson we want to learn in this lifetime. And then as we go through our life, experiences are put in our path to learn those lessons. If we don't learn them, then in the next life we continue to experience them in other ways to learn the lesson. How would you describe our human experience and what happens before we come into being?
A very nice introspection, even though it is formulated as a question or inquiry. So you do set up certain major pathways of experience, but you also allow yourselves to deviate in any number of ways possible and imaginable. And it is not necessarily that you have one mission and if you miss it, you're done for. So you always allow for an expanded version of your experiences. And in doing so, you may even allow yourself to change course midway. Some people may decide that they might be ill-equipped at this point in time to continue their lives in that fashion. So they may, in your vernacular, check out. That may be done in compliance with other particular lessons in the creation of energy, perhaps through creating what you call illness or disease in the body. Others simply leave, therefore. Some people may seem to disappear. There are multiple cases of disappearances in your world all the time. Sometimes no trace of any bodies. As to the life lessons and whether they will continue in another, you always have that opportunity. But it may not follow any particular linear sequencing. You believe that you live now in the year 2016. And of course, you may have a life in 2050, 2075, 3000. But you may, if the circumstances are more appropriate to the understanding you seek together, you may take birth in a period that would be representative of, say, the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, the Roman era, the Greek era, the Egyptian era, and so on and so forth. Because you also like variety. And you might find that a particular time frame in that way complements you in a better way. And if there are things you do not learn, you will certainly not be punished. There is no cosmic committee that keeps tabs on you and say, well, wait a minute, you did not finish grade 3, you must go back or pay a penalty. There is no such thing. You always have the freedom to go forward in any manner that suits your overall sense of self. And by sense of self, we mean as the eternal self. Because you too are more than the sum of all of your parts. And not just bodily parts, but all the sums of your aspects. Because in many ways, you are also pyramid gestalt. You have many, many different structures within your own personality structures, not all of which can manifest themselves in one or multiple lifetimes. So you have a great deal of opportunities available to you at any given time. When you decide to pursue a particular path, then you often do so at the exclusion of others, as far as you think. But there may be other aspects of your persona that also pursue the paths that you do not take as a focused personality. But they will pursue it and enrich the whole self. This is done through the auspices of what is called simultaneous time. Because time, as you understand it, is a man-made structure. Even though there is such a thing as a particular time frame, but it is based upon simultaneous time. So it is a different psychology altogether.
And probably a whole other video.
Indeed.
So could you talk about it as well? What happens when someone dies? What happens to the soul?
Indeed, in a few words.
Mm-hmm.
As if we would ever be, how do you say, restrained by a few words. In a nutshell, when you disengage from the physical apparatus, when you decide that the old shirt is no longer suitable and it can no longer represent the being that you are becoming, you vacate it, you return it to the earth. It becomes again the dust of the earth and the stars. You continue to other realms if you like. There are definite possibilities that you may encounter those who knew in your lifetime just recently passed, that assist you to adjust, because you keep in mind that you may have been in a conditioned situation for many years, even decades. You might need some orientation, some adjustment period. You might even decide to take a break from actually incarnating physically. Or you may decide that you will continue the adventure in some other place. But you always have that kind of choice. And it is up to you to make those decisions.
So when people who have lost someone close to them feel like that loved one is still around them, they feel like they sense their energy or can hear them.
It is quite possible that these loved ones who have passed on like or desire from time to time a brief visit. They cannot physically communicate with you because they do not function on that plane anymore. But they may send you a reminder through memories. Out of the blue, you might suddenly remember a lovely episode you have had with a relative that has passed on. Not necessarily understanding where the memory would have come from. But it may indeed be a subtle communication from that individual. Because it is the only way they can communicate through that kind of an emotional and imagery perspective. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Thank you.